I go to use it, I go to get on there. Watch it'll work this time.
Network Plus, right? Okay, look in your course materials and see if you have an access key. So where, like where you normally would go, yeah. And click on the book for that, yeah, reveal access code, and see if that, yeah, try that. Well, the hang up with all this stuff is every company does it differently. Some of them, you know, like Cengage, you just log in once and you're there forever. And then some of the others, you don't. Morning. Let's go. Scroll up a little or down, whichever way. I think there's a button down below that you have to click. Oh, well. That's weird. Let me you pasted it in and hit, you see there's something else down there. Okay, click in there where you put your access code and hit the tab key. Keep hitting the tab key.
That's so dumb.
That's pretty bad. Why would my phone be? Oh.
Yeah. Take a tour of CertMaster, for sure.
All right. I'm showing 8 o'clock. I probably don't have everything open, but let's see. Abigail, Andrew, Austin, Brenda, Chase, David, Donovan, Dresden, Gavin, Herman is here, Hope, Jeff, John, Keaton, Larry, Mason, Muhammad is here, Nathan Miller, Nathan Slusher, Summer, Terrence, William, Zach. All right, read these names so they'll come in. Missing: Abigail, Daniel, Brenda, Chase, David, Jeff, Mason, Nathan Slusher, Summer, Terrence, William. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Almost double points for you today. You must have increased your bribe or something. Or gotten better blackmail material. Wait, I guess that's the security class. All right. So we pretty much finished chapter 1. Although for some reason in this class and in the other one, my recordings have been stopping like right at the last couple of slides. So I'm going to talk just a minute or two, and that's what I was going to do today, any of some of those other tags. But, I can fix that. I can take my little pen, and I can just scratch that out, because you should have KSS hosting accounts. You should have gotten an email 12:30, 1 o'clock, something like that this morning. And it should have your KSS hosting info in it. I'll talk about that in just a minute. I have started recording. I have taken attendance. Oh, and I have the other slide hidden. Let's go back. I'll sure keep them. And let's unhide this one. Now let's go right back there. You should have gotten a message that looks something like that. I even updated the stuff on it. Usually it says KSIMS 2020 or something. So the things that you need to keep in mind: the KSS hosting name should be your UC username at KSS hosting. Your password, if you look very carefully at it, you can figure out the pattern. But nonetheless, a few years back, the KSS hosting site started bumping up the requirements for passwords. So that's why you got the 2 exclamation points in there. And then your domain, this is simply where your sites are going to be. So now I created this site for myself this morning. Let's see if it's active. And there's my glorious website, and that's what you should see. And basically this is telling you, hey, there's a site here, but there's really nothing in it. And if you click in CGI bin, you get an error. You may or may not get an error on yours. But this is basically just going to show you the contents of your site. Normally I would not leave it that way. Normally I would put something in there so that it didn't go to a blank page like that. But actually, we discovered by accident, myself and another teacher who teaches this class, we discovered by accident that actually makes it easier to grade. So that's what you'll see if you go just to your site by itself. What we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up coming out here, and for like this first assignment, you're going to say personal one. Now there's no personal one here, so I'm going to get the infamous 404 error, not found, but within the next few minutes, personal one will be there. If for some reason it says it can't find username.ksshosting.com, you can try this one and see if it works. Typically what it means when it says it can't find it is that the KSS hosting site is doing maintenance or something, but either one of these two will take you to the same place on the KSS hosting server. So we'll do that here in just a minute. This is the week 1 assignment. I did this in class the other day, and then I think yesterday I came in with one that was a little bit more fleshed out. If I can go find it. And so there's sort of where we left it. Not yesterday, because I took the junk out I was playing with yesterday. But I'm going to come back in here and play with this one a little bit more today. 3 paragraphs, where you were born and raised. You know, I guess if you're in witness protection, make something up. How you discovered Cumberland or UC, and then you and the internet, relationship with the internet or something like that. I think is what the actual assignment says. I just make them, I don't usually read them. So we're going to assume you're going to get that done. It means you probably have Visual Studio Code installed, or we'll get it installed soon. And, you know, or you could torture yourself by typing that in Notepad or something. But nonetheless, that is the assignment, yes. Actually, this one, I think the suggested due date is Sunday, because I want to make sure everybody's got access and able to get stuff on. But the big secret, don't tell anybody else, I never count the first week's late. Because this assignment really isn't anything except to make sure your KSS hosting account works and you can access it. So try to do it between now and the weekend. And then that way, that'll let us figure out what's going on first thing next week. See how many passwords I didn't copyright. So there's where we are. We did install a Visual Studio Code the other day. I talked about FileZilla, and the FileZilla download is at FileZilla project, FileZilla-project.org. I'm going to go ahead and go there. I'm going to download the clients, and it's going to offer me Windows because that's what I'm here, but then you can see it offers an old 32-bit version of Windows, a couple of versions for Mac, and a couple of versions for Linux. It will, I think, try to determine what computer you're connecting with and offer you the appropriate one. I'm going to hit download. FileZilla is free, but they do try to make some money. And so we just want to go ahead and take the free download here. And I would suggest if 5 years down the road, you're making $5 million a year using FileZilla, then I'd send them some money. All right, Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, that shows you how old I am, says make sure that I trust it. Well, I don't trust anything, but I'm going to keep it anyway. And I'm just going to report it as safe. But I think what happened here, let's just go back to download. I said keep. I don't want to report it as safe. Okay, let's try this again. I think I clicked that I wanted to, and I don't want to. Okay. Keep anyway. There we go. Now, notice it says sponsored in here. So this is where you want to be careful installing this. I'm going to go ahead and click open, or I thought I did. Oh, now I've got it opening twice. Let's say yes. All right, now it's opened a bunch. Let's close that one. Let's close. Oh, come on. Okay, let's hit cancel. Yes. Cancel. Yes. This poor little virtual machine. No, just go away. Okay, finally, if you get it to open, you should only get one of those. I guess I just wasn't giving it enough time. I'm going to click I agree, but now you want to read here. How do I want to install it? Only for me is fine. I'm going to do a desktop icon, but that's up to you. I'm going to leave it in its default position on the disk, but that's up to you. I'm not going to change the program folder name. And it says why. Okay. Yeah, I know. Let's try this again. Go to downloads. I'm going to delete it. I wonder if this is the one day that it's messed up. Okay. Download FileZilla client. Ignore everything else I said until I got to there. We're going to hit download. We're going to keep it. We're going to keep it anyway. Now, this may not show up depending on what browser you use and what computer you're on, because this is a school computer, even though it's running in a VM, so this should be something. This could be it. So I've got it downloaded. I'm going to say open file just once, and then I'm going to close that. Let's see if it actually, okay. Yes, do that. I agree. Now, it wants to download, this is the sponsored offer, it wants to download Chrome. I'm going to decline. It may not be Chrome, it may be something else. It might be Cousin Bobby's search toolbar or something. Hit next. Yeah, it's running. I must have just, because I was, doesn't matter if, I'm just going to go say anyone just since that's the default. I'm going to do the desktop icon. I'm going to say default path, default name, and there we go. And I'm going to watch carefully because it may stick another, hey, we really want to sell you something in there. And there's the icon. Let's go ahead and hit finish. And you get some information. And this is the main FileZilla window. Let me see. Can I change display settings on a remote? I already have. So no, I can't. All right. In its default state, this is your local computer on this side. That is the server that you're connecting to. Not sure you'll need to do it in this class, but FileZilla allows multiple connections. You could have multiple sites. As a matter of fact, I think you could even open 2 FTP sites and copy stuff from one to the other using FileZilla. All right, in Blackboard, if I can find it, and it looks like I've closed it, of course. There is a sheet with the first assignment that gives you instructions on how to set up FileZilla. You want to make sure you follow those instructions. If I can find the class, and I go to week 1, and I go to week 1 assignments, KSS hosting connection instructions. So we'll click that. And you'll notice step number 1 says click File Site Manager and then New Site. It does not say type your host and username and password in here. File Site Manager. New install, so I'm going to hit New Site. Let's call it KSIMS 2026 KSSHosting.com. Otherwise, it's just going to say new name. Now, in that email that you got, it gave you the server name. And the server name, it's also on the sheet, the instructions, ftp.ksshosting.com. The sheet suggests changing this to use plain FTP. If you connect from a Mac, you may have to use the first option. The use plain should work for everyone. The explicit FTP over TLS may or may not work, but it seems to work more on a Mac. Your username is your uCumberland username at ksshosting.com, and your password, I don't know if I typed that right or not, is that semi-random connection. Now I'm going to hit connect, and we're going to see, now if you're only using this on your own computer, you can say save the passwords. I'm going to go ahead and do that. It's going to warn you that plain FTP is insecure. I'm going to say, okay, let's do that. And then you can see, you get a little story up here about what's going on. And then on the right-hand side, just because I'm strange, I like those equal, you're going to see that CGI bin folder that we saw back here somewhere. I don't know where we saw it at. And so there's the CGI bin folder. And that's right there. Ignore well-known. That has to do with website security. And that will be there, should be there for you automatically. Now, again, this is this local machine in my office, but it's local to the county anyway. This is remote. So I'm going to go to my desktop, and I'm going to go to ITSS232, And there's that personal one folder. If you remember the other day, I said create a folder and make sure you know where the stuff is saved. So if I hit Files, I guess it's already saved. So if I just close it out and I go back to my desktop, there's 232, there's personal one. That's what I'm looking for. Then I can just click and drag personal one over here. Now, don't drag it on top of CGI bin or on top of well-known, because if you do, it'll go inside that folder. So drag it down here in the white space somewhere. As long as they don't light up, you're okay. So you can drag it over here to the right. Just depends on the layout of your monitor and how much stuff is zoomed in. So I'm going to unclick after dragging it, and you saw a little action. It gives you that nice annoying bong to let you know that things have transferred. And now you see there's a personal one folder over here. And if I go into personal one locally and remotely, then you can see they're there. Every now and then a student will ask, but they're different sizes. Did you notice 1893, 1860? That has to do with Windows versus Linux. That's all I'm going to say about that right now. All right, so now if I go back to here, let's close everything else, and I hit refresh, you'll notice that I see personal. This server is somewhere in Arizona. So what we're looking at here is something going on in Arizona. And now if I click personal one, then you're going to see my original page that I created. If I want to edit that page, I have to go back to Visual Studio Code. And by default, Visual Studio Code will pull up the last thing you were working on. Good, bad, indifferent. Sometimes it's, when I like it, and when I don't, when it irritates me, I don't. And if I come in here and say, my hometown, and when I hit save, Control S, that saves it locally. But if you notice, it's not back here, and that makes perfect sense till you're sitting there 5 minutes before the assignment's due, and you've made the change, and it's not showing up. And then you realize, I have to drag this back over. Now, here's where people get confused. If I drag HTML, index.html over here, it will replace index.html. And that's fine, and I'm going to do that. Notice it says it already exists. What do you want to do? I'm going to say overwrite, and you can figure these options out. I typically will do overwrite if different size or source is newer. But I'm going to hit OK. You can see a little action up here. If you transfer a bunch of stuff, you'll see some activity down here, but most of the time it'll just give you the little bong and it's done. I go back here, and now you see it says my hometown. So that's fine, that worked. If you're looking at the folder, and the reason you'll want to upload folders sometimes is because you may have multiple files. You've got your index file, and you've got 2 or 3 pictures, and you've got a CSS file, which we're getting ready to talk about. So you've got more than one thing, and rather than send there drag, 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 if you just drag the whole folder over, then that solves the problem. So I'm going to drag the whole folder over, and again, I'm going to go over here into the white space somewhere, and I'm going to click overwrite, and it says it's done, and it again gives you a quick brief of what it did. Now, I didn't change anything. Let me change something up here. Let's add an H2. Aren't you so thrilled? And excess number of exclamation points, of course. So once again, did I save? Oh. And see, there's what I did. That time I clicked on the one on the website, but I hadn't uploaded it yet. So let's go desktop, personal. Here it is locally, so this will be fun. The one that says files is local, so there's the Aren't You Thrilled? There's the one uploaded. And at some point, when you get confused, just close all the browser windows and go where you want to go. And I'll show you another thing with Visual Studio Code that kind of eliminates this part. So now we need to upload again because we've made changes. This is what you do not want to do, and only the people who are absent today will do this. You think, hey, here's my personal one folder. Let's drag it over here to the personal one folder. So I did that. Now let's just close the browser. And let's reopen the browser. And let's go to our website, pretend we don't know it's personal one. And there it is. Oh, I want to look at personal one. Do you notice what's missing? You're not thrilled. But Ken, we dragged it over. Drug it over. Whatever. Well, sort of. Let's go back and look at FileZilla. And this is what none of you will do, but someone who's absent will do this. They'll say, well, I'm going to drag it over again. I'm going to make sure maybe I didn't hit overwrite. And we hit reload again, and it's not there. Some of you probably know what's happening. When you drag a folder into a folder, you are putting this folder inside of that other folder. So when I go to personal one over here, you'll notice now I've got another personal one folder. So I can go up here and there's the Aren't You So Thrilled? Don't do that. If on your projects, they're going to be, I think, personal 1 through personal 7, if you can't access your assignment by going to yourusername.ksshosting/personal and the number, and by the way, lowercase, all lowercase personal, no space in here. I know it's hard. People want to put capital letters, but don't. All lowercase, because I have a script that I run, and it opens these automatically for me as long as they match my naming convention. And if they don't match my naming convention, they don't open it. I have to manually open it. And it's not like it costs me money, but it does cost me time. Maybe it does cost me money. So make sure you don't do that. If you ever go over here and see that you've got personal one inside of personal one, and you can imagine if we drag it over here again, now we're going to have personal one inside of personal one inside of personal one. This is your good copy. This should always be, whatever's local should be your good copy. I would encourage you to back it up to a flash drive or something. You can always come over here and go all the way back to the top and delete personal one. You don't want to delete the other two, but if I just hit the delete key, Really? Yes. And it'll tell you that it deletes a bunch of stuff. And then you can grab and drag personal one over again. And you'll be where you're supposed to be. So keep in mind, if your site doesn't open like that, then there's a problem. Now, I'm fine. When you go there, then you should see personal 1, personal 2, personal 3, personal 4, and so forth. That's what you would expect to see there. Seems like there was something else about FileZilla, but I don't know what it was. I was going to see if I could make the font bigger, actually. I made the buttons bigger, but it didn't make the font any bigger. Okay. So, between now and next week, Visual Studio Code, FileZilla, update, upload, fix your site, upload it, make sure it works. And then what helps me, although typically it's not the end of the world if you don't, and I don't know where I had Blackboard open. I guess I had it open here. What helps me is if you, when you're ready for me to grade it, if you do go ahead and click here and do a submit and just paste your URL, just the username.ksshosting/personal1. That's all that you need to put in there. That just lets me know that it's ready for me to look at. That may be everything for FileZilla. Let's go look at Visual Studio Code a little more. I'm just going to leave that open. KSS hosting is really bad about disconnecting. It'll give you a minute or two and then it disconnects. Don't worry about that. When you go back, it should just reconnect. You don't have to log out and log back in. If I try to drag this over here, you'll see that it reconnects and everything. If it ever doesn't, give it a minute or two. Sometimes it also has a limit on how many people can access it at the same time. All right, so we'll leave that because we'll make some more changes here. And I don't need that right now. All right, so Visual Studio Code, you've seen that some of the stuff that it will do, if I type an H2, you'll see that it says it's an Emmett abbreviation. Emmett was the name of a person years ago who came up with this idea that HTML ought to sort of write itself. And so when you type H2 and hit tab, you automatically get the closing tag, and then you can put stuff in there. And that saves you from having to type the opening tag and the closing tag. It's pretty much standard. There are some other things that you can do with Visual Studio Code. I'm going to save. If you go over here to the little box, it's going to open some extensions. Now, you may notice that this looks a lot like the Cengage Online. What Cengage is doing, Cengage is using Visual Studio Code Online, and it's using it within GitHub. So it's actually the same program. You'll see some different extensions in there. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to search for HTML. And the one that I want to look for is this one by somebody named Ecmel, E-C-M-E-L. And I'm going to click that. there's some information there. Go ahead and install 29 million installs. And yes, I am going to do that. This is the one I've used forever. And it should now show as, doesn't say installed, but it says disable. The other one that I want you to look for, and this just makes it a little easier, is look for live server. And the live server you want is Ritwick Day. So you're looking for ECML for HTML, CSS, and you're looking for day for live server. And I should take a picture of that and put it in the video, but I'm not going to. Yes? Click more info. That's a different version of the message that I've got. And it should let you, should let you go ahead and run it anyway. Yeah. Unless it's not. I guarantee it to be safe for 1 millisecond. All right, so live server, I'm going to go ahead and hit that. I'm going to hit install. Again, 81 million installs. If he were evil, we would all be taken over. And once again, you get a little churning up here, a little icon there saying it's doing it. And what this lets you do is this lets you click on a little button in Visual Studio Code, and it will actually open your web page up, and you can see live changes. Every time you save, it'll write those, it'll update that web page. It works really well if you have 2 monitors. Now, there's one more, and I really need a slide for these. If you do W3C and look for W3C Web Validator, I'm just going to write validator, and the one that I always use is this Riboulet. Now, just over 250,000 installs, but that's just the one I've always used. And this goes back, I think I've been using Visual Studio Code for 5 or 6 years in this class now. So I'm going to go ahead and hit install there. And yes, trust. And we're going to let that think for a minute or two. I think some of this stuff is probably in the installing Visual Studio Code video. Maybe I'll remember to add that somewhere. All right. Now if we go back to extensions and get rid of the filter. Oh, still installing. Maybe. Did it not install the validator? Oh. I'm going to close Visual Studio. Oh, it's on the desktop, isn't it? And reopen. And let's see what we get. All right, so I got Go Live down here, so that's good. And I have my 3 valid codes. And it says W3C validation down here. Now, things didn't really change here. This is still going to work. That's built in. But the HTML, CSS support, you'll see that it does some stuff for you as we're typing. And I just say go ahead and install them. All right. So now I'm going to go down here on the lower right-hand corner, and I'm going to hit Live Server, or Go Live. And it sets for a minute. Yes, I really do. And then it's going to open a web page. And you notice it's got a really funky URL. If you take networking class, you'll learn what the 127.0.0.1 is. But here's kind of the neat thing about it. Let's put the web page on the right, Visual Studio on the left. Let's close that. And I'm going to change stuff to fun stuff. And notice when I hit save, it automatically updates over here. That just makes development easier in my mind because you don't have to remember to load. Now, this is on your local machine, so this is not on the internet, so you still have to upload it. But anything we go in here and do now, it's going to change over there. So, between now and next week, have I said that enough yet? Visual Studio Code, FileZilla. I recommend these 3 extensions. You can look through the extensions for other stuff. If you take or have taken the Intro to Programming class, there's C# extensions, so you can do C# programming in here. There's Python stuff in here, which is what it defaulted to me because that's what I've done this summer. But nonetheless, that is my recommended setup. And it irritates me that these things just go all the way across. The magic key is Alt-Z to make it wrap so that it will show you what you're typing on the screen. Questions about Visual Studio Code, FileZilla, extensions, anything like that, KSS hosting. A lot of this stuff, until you do it, you don't know if it's going to work or not. Yeah, you were supposed to decline Chrome when you did the install. I would find it in programs and uninstall it. But FileZilla is not malicious. They just like advertising. I don't know, the Microsoft Edge tools, it'll give you recommended ones here. Every now and then I'll try some of those out, but I don't recommend playing with them unless you have a need for them. Okay, so now let's jump ahead just a minute or two. What time is it? Okay, and look at the next chapter. Okay, the recording cut off when I was talking about some of this stuff yesterday. So if you were here, you heard it. If you go back and watch the recording, it just abruptly ends. I think I've got it fixed now. And I'm also streaming a backup copy to my YouTube account so that if I have to download it from there, I can. We talked about grouping elements, and we've seen the list, definition list or description list, ordered and unordered list. You've seen the paragraph. We talked about main. And then we talked about text level elements that let you do things like B for bold or strong to make the text bold. M and I for emphasized. I is pretty much specifically italics, but EM just says make this different. So we can make it italics, bold, and bright yellow if we wanted to. And so there's some of those. We talked about the validator yesterday a little bit. Let me go back here, and now notice down here, W3C validation. I'm going to go ahead and click that. and you see that it says this side is valid. But if I were to come up here and maybe make that a 1 instead of a 2, and then hit HTML3 validation, you see that it's not valid. 1 error, 0 warnings, 0 infos. If I click on that, sometimes, nope. I guess I have to go up here, view, output, nope. Oh, view problems, there it is. And then it says the end tag H1 is seen, but there were open elements. That basically means, hey, oh brilliant soul, you started with an H2 and you ended with an H1. And notice it even does your little squiggly up here. That comes and goes depending on the speed of your computer and what else is going on. So if I change that back to H2, you'll notice that disappears, and I can validate again. And you want it to say validate, you want it to say valid. You do not want any errors, and you would prefer not to have any warnings. All right, so that's validation in there. Now, I think this was the last slide. Eventually we'll get to the last slide from yesterday. We said that HTML was the content, and CSS was the formatting and the presentation of the document. So we can change colors and stuff like that. Cascading style sheets can be put in, and this will be a repeat on Tuesday. Cascading style sheets can be put in multiple ways. We're going to look at embedded and external, and I'll explain what the others are next week. But we're going to focus on just external and embedded. Remember yesterday I said that the browser determined how a basic page looked. The browser has a style sheet that's built into it. And that's the first one that gets applied. When you want to apply a style to something, you do exactly what you do in Microsoft Word if you want to boldface something. It'll probably take a half an hour to load. Hello there. I'm excited. And if I want to make excited bold, I select I'm excited, and I say make it bold. That's exactly what we're going to do with CSS. We're going to select, using a selector, we're going to select what we want to change, and then we're going to change those properties. So the selector is what you're changing, or is the item on the page you're changing. The property is the thing you're changing, like the color or the size or the, transparency, whatever. And then value is what you want to do. So you make something blue. So I can go back to Visual Studio Code, and I can go up here in head, and I can type the not magic word style, and you'll see I get a little style closing tag. This is an embedded style sheet because it's embedded on the page. I want to change all headers. Looks like I've got H1s and let's just do H1. That'll be simpler. I want to change the color of H1 to blue. So I type the element, the tag H1. That selects all H1s. and I'm going to say make the color blue. I'm going to change all the H2s to green. Now notice I start typing green, it shows me a little example. You'll get used to the syntax. I'm going to save, and because I've got live server still running, hopefully, then you can see all the H1, or the only H1 is blue, and all the H2s turn green. So rather than in Word going down through here, green, 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 we're using the style, which you can do in Word, but we're using the style, and we're saying just make all of them green. It's a valid question. What if you don't want one of them green? And we'll talk about that maybe later, maybe next week. P will select all of the paragraphs. Notice I get a little squiggly under there. It says don't use empty rule sets. Edit. Let's see. I don't even need those. Edits, file, preferences, settings. Let's go 18. That's a little better. Maybe it's a little easier to read. Now, in Microsoft Word, if you want to change the font, you select the text and you go up and you select font from the drop down. Well, it's not quite that easy, because we're going to have to know what to type. But fortunately, it's going to prompt you. I'm going to say font family, and then you'll notice, and this is coming from that ECML extension, it gives you a bunch of ideas of what fonts to pick from. So let's just go down here and do impact. Yeah, that would be silly for the thing. Let's go down here and pick Arial. And it lists multiple fonts. I'll explain why later on. And now I'm going to hit save, watch the update, and you see now all the paragraphs have changed. If I want to make Cumberland College bold, then I can come in here. I guess I should use the EM. Let's come in here and put EM. And let's put EM down here. And I guess I'm making it italics instead of bold. And so now you can see that Cumberland College is there in italics. But what if I don't think that's enough emphasis? Then I can come up here and I can change what EM does. So let's go color red. Whoops. Semicolon. Font. Now, you notice you got a lot of options there. I'm going to go font weight. And most of them make sense, but I'm just going to type bold, and I'm going to hit save, and now watch Cumberland College over here. I don't know if I can highlight it, if it'll stay highlighted. Yeah, it's going to stay highlighted. But notice when I save, now it is bold and red. So that's the power of a style sheet. Now, in this case, this is mixing style and content, but sometimes you do that. But what I want you to see is if you can select it, you can change it. And even if you can't select it, because it's some random word in the middle of a paragraph, there is a way to select it, but I'm going to save that, I think, for next week. Now, if you use an embedded style, that style only applies to the page it's embedded in. Thinking a little will make that make sense. So if you had 5 pages and you wanted all the H1s blue and all the H2s green and all the paragraphs the Arial font family, then you would have to put that same style sheet in those 5 pages, which becomes a pain because then when the boss says, hey, I don't like blue anymore, make it purple, then you would have to go to those 5 pages. If we use an external CSS file, then instead of putting the styles here, I'm going to create a new file. Just give me a new text file. I'm going to copy this. In here. I don't like that it indents it, but that's okay. I'm going to save as, and now notice I'm still in my personal file here. I'm going to call this style.css. It looked at the file and decided it was CSS for me. That's why it chose CSS. And I'm going to save. But then I'm going to go back here to index, and instead of putting style in that way, I'm going to say link. And in link CSS gives you the quick shortcut to putting in a link to a CSS file. And now you see why I named it style, because that's the default one that it puts in. I'm going to hit save, and you're going to notice nothing changed, but the catch is it is now getting these styles from here. So if I go over here and do body, now remember we have body tags here. If I say body, background color, have trouble picking colors. How about antique white? And save. Then you'll notice the page updates. So now I can take all of my company colors and company styles, put them in a CSS file, and I can instantly transform a page by just including that file. There are an infinite, well, maybe not infinite, huge number of things you can do. And if you just go up here and start typing, I'm going to type T, and it shows me a bunch of stuff related to T. Some of this stuff I don't know what is, but I have a guess that I know what text align is, so I'm going to go to text align. And look at this, it gives me some options, center, in, justify, left, right. What if I put center in there and save? And now my H1 is centered. Let's see, I've done color. Here's something interesting. Let's do a background color on a header and see what happens. Let's make our headers background color aqua. And you'll notice on header 2, and you'll notice now that header 2s all turn aqua. And you can kind of see where they are. You can see there's extra spacing in here. You could, yes. Yeah, I could come up here, background, color. You probably don't want to call it, you don't want to say blue, because then your text disappears. So what if we do blue violet? Yes, yes. Oh, yes. Yep. If I could center any of these. Let's come down here, text align right, and now we throw the headers over there. And this, if you think about this, the way you would do this in Microsoft Word or any other word processor, you select something and you say how I want it to look. And that's all we're doing here. It's just that we're selecting it with text. There's one called Justify. It does really strange things, except apparently it doesn't work. It's not doing it here. Normally what it'll do is spread the stuff out. So let's just go back to right, just so it looks different. But Live Server is nice in that all you have to do is make a change, save, and then that gets you the preview. But now remember, if I go back, let's open another Internet Explorer. Let's just open up in private. If I go to KSIMS and go to personal, we're still there, because what I have to do to make these changes is I have to drag this over. Now, if I go look in personal now before I drag, you'll notice I've got two files, and I have to drag both of them. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag the folder over here in the white space somewhere. And I'm going to say yes, overwrite. And whichever one of these. And now Ken's bad color choices are available for the world to see. Chapter 2 is all about CSS. And while this isn't quite as bad as teaching you to swim by taking you out to the middle of the lake and dropping you in, it is kind of close in some ways. But play with FileZilla, Visual Studio Code, try to get this working, try to connect to KSS hosting. Let me know if you have problems. GitHub was giving people some trouble, and it wasn't just your class, it was in the other class. Do I have Blackboard open somewhere? Oh, Blackboard's open here, I think. Or it was. Maybe it still is. Let's look at Coding Challenge 2. Hopefully I'm signed in. And hopefully I'm signed into GitHub. The MindTap stuff is sensitive to ad blockers, some antivirus things. I'm going to go ahead and hit start because it has to open a new window. Yes, I really want that to access. And of course, I wasn't signed in. Off the GitHub. And that setting up your code space was where some people were getting an error. It was saying, can't do this right now, try again later. If you get that, well, try again later, but also maybe do an incognito browser, see if that makes a difference. If you're using Chrome, try Edge or Safari. If you're using Safari or Edge, try Chrome. But you'll notice this looks just like VS Code on the web other than dark mode. There are extensions over here. There's a GitHub add-in there. If we look at extensions, then you can see the extensions that are already loaded here for you. Once again, here's what you're supposed to do. I'm not sure why this has somebody's, oh, I guess I didn't change the name up here or something, because that looks like it's done. That's one of the problems is I always do this stuff and then I forget to go back and clear it out. But this is where you should end up. You should be able to come down here and click these, and it should check to see if it's correct or not. To say it can be slow would be lying. To say it can be infernally slow is closer to the truth. To say that it can be brilliantly slow, and that's probably about it. So once again, start it. It depends on the time of day. Depends on how many other people are trying to turn in their assignment 10 minutes before it's due. All of that good stuff. But it should eventually come up there and give you a green check mark. Sometimes if it doesn't, you can log back out. Oh, it didn't do it. It says I have a grade of 0. That's not good. Let's see. Maybe I didn't do it. Yeah, I remember seeing this. I didn't make an attempt. Oh, maybe I didn't because I didn't change anything. Now. The way this works, and I promise I'll stop talking after this statement, whether or not this runs or not. Dark mode is just a pain to see there. The way this works, every time you click check, Microsoft, who owns GitHub, gets money from Cengage. So they won't let you just keep hitting check, check, check. You've got to come over here and change something to get it to actually run the checks. And eventually, maybe it'll work. But again, there are only, I think, 10 assignments, 10 or 11 assignments, and maybe some bonus ones at the end. So, but just don't wait until the last minute, because I guarantee the evil AI in the world knows you've waited till the last minute, and it's going to tell GitHub to run extremely slow, much as it is right now. And if you want to write support at Cengage, that's fine. Be nice about it. They know about this. I've talked to their developers about this when they first switched to this. And they're nice people. They're limited just in, you want a car that goes 200 miles an hour, you pay more than you do if you want a car that goes 50 miles an hour. And I'm thinking that's where they're at here, is they're just not paying for the highest level service. All right, y'all have a good rest of the day. Hopefully I got a good recording. I will see you all on Tuesday, okay? Tuesday, not Monday. Monday is to give you an hour, and it still didn't work. Monday is to give you an hour and 15 minutes between now and Tuesday to try Visual Studio Code, to try to connect to KSS hosting, and all of that stuff. I'll post a reminder and an announcement as well. No. If you came in late and passed the roll,
it.